fishing, it's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Hello, Salt Strong Nation. Joe Simons, like diamonds. We are back. This is going to be a fun one. Got my main man, Mark Goodson. He is the guy behind the scenes that is doing all of our buying. He is the most knowledgeable dude I have ever met when it comes to tackle. And one of his favorite things happens to be reels. So in this episode, we're going to talk all about the new inshore spinning reels. There's been a ton of questions. You guys have seen some new names from Shimano, from Penn, from Daiwa, really from everybody. And even Quantum's working on some new stuff. And there's been a lot of confusion. All right, is this replacing this? Like, what happened to the CI4? What's this new thing? What did they fix on it? And so we'll talk a little about what happened in ICAST, because that was kind of the first we heard about it. Now we're starting getting some of these reels in. We're able to test some of them and really kind of put them to the test, if you will, and see what all the hoopla is about. So first and foremost, welcome to the show, Brother Mark.
Yeah, I need like diamonds for my name. I need that pizzazz, So I got to think of something that goes with Mark.
Well, you were lucky that you were blessed with an easy, no one really messes up Goodson, or do they? Do they screw that up?
No, pretty bland.
Oh, well, there were many days, junior high, and you don't really want to have to speak up, and the teacher always said Simmons, which is why that came about. So I got called Simmons my entire life. Probably like a lot of the confusion with these spinning reels. So what take us back to ICAST. It was like the first virtual ICAST, which was different, but what's like the overall change that all these manufacturers are going toward? And then we're going to hit each brand and talk about what they're actual changing specifically, what these new models are all about, et cetera.
Yeah, I think the biggest change from ICAST, what I've seen, most of the manufacturers doing is they're still trying to push the limit of building the lightest, the strongest, the fastest, to incorporate these really unique materials in their product. And ICAST was kind of the coming out party to a lot of these concepts. It seemed like Daiwa and Shimano, they really hit it out of the park, for this year's available product that'll hit the market in November, December. But it just seems like everyone is saying, okay, what are we good at? When someone mentions quantum, what do people think? What's that one reel? And what they're doing is they're taking what they're really, really good at, refining it, making it better. And then they say, okay, what does our audience want in a different reel? Is it a price point issue? Is it they like certain things on this, they don't like certain things on that? And I think that this year the manufacturers really paid a lot of attention to that.
So you mentioned what do people think about quantum and stuff? So what was do they? You also mentioned Shimano and Daiwa kind of knocked out of the park. In what way? What were the new things?
Well, so for instance, Shimano, and I'll just address that because, they're one of the most popular, in the industry. Shimano did a lot of changes this year, from a mental aspect to a physical aspect. The mental side, which I'll go into, in the future as well. But, they said, okay, what is hurting the Stratix market? Because the Stratix is their number one. That by far, everyone knows Stratix is Shimano's, it's the reel to have. They said, okay, we have two really competing prices in the Stratix lineup, the CI4 Plus and the standard Stratix. And what really is the difference between the two? Is it just the body material that it's made out of? Or are there true internal components that make the CI4 better than the traditional? So what Shimano decided to do at ICAST is said, we have two reels that are, real close together, and we don't like that anymore because we feel that the Stratix CI4 Plus is really taking away market share of the standard Stratic. And we need to create that level of difference. And that's what Shimano did on the mental aspect, is they say, okay, no more CI4 Plus. I'm going to call it something completely different. I want CI4 Plus out of your mouth, out of your mind. And now it's going to be called Vanford. And I want two reels that now will stand on its own platform. And now they can talk about two very distinctly different products.
All right, so let's stay on this topic then. So CI4 as of next year is going away, it sounds like.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And that's going to be the Vanford.
That's right.
Similar price, that 230-ish, something like that, 250.
Yeah. The 225 to 245 market is going to be in that platform for the Vanford. It went up, barely in price. But in my opinion, a lot of the things that they did with the Vanford, it now is that reel that Shimano needed it to be in the CI4 Plus. So, the Vanford, and I'll go into some of the changes, between the Vanford and the old CI4 Plus. You still have that lightweight framing that CI4, really brought to the industry. So that 6.5 ounce range of reel is being continued into the Vanford market. What Shimano did about 3 to 5 years ago on and I'm going to hold up a Daiwa for right now, just so I can explain it to you. On the rotor assembly, so this spinning apparatus is what they call the rotor. On the Vanford and CI4 Plus, what they did 3 to 5 years ago was they found a way to perimeter weight this rotor. And what I mean by that is, as that rotor is oscillating around that spool, they've weighted the rotor to balance that wobble, the vibration, the noise on their product. So that's why whenever you spin a Shimano product, it's just really, really fluid. You don't feel a lot of the reel moving in your hand because of how they weight the rotor. So one of the big things that they did with the Vanford is they kept that same kind of apparatus on their rotor. They did it in an MGL, so it's a carbon fiber based rotor to reduce weight. So that's how they're keeping it in that 6.5 ounce platform. But two of the major changes that they made, something that Shimano just absolutely had a hard time with, was a bearing issue. I don't care if you ask 10,000 people how great Shimano is, and they are great. 900% of them will say it's a bearing. It's the roller bearing. It makes this just god-awful noise when the line's peeling off the reel. It's just a loud reel when the bearings go bad. So the Vanford and the new Stratic, they started to incorporate some new line roller bearings, and that's what really hurt the last edition CI4 Plus. The second major change, in my opinion, is they're now starting to get into the cross-woven technology of drag washers. So before, it was just a standard disc, and when you're compressing the two of them together, they had that surface friction upon each other to create that drag pressure. Now they have cross-woven fabric in that drag, so now it really grips the next washer that it kind of butts up to. So the drag really didn't change in the form of pounds of pressure, but now they're able to reduce the size of the washers and still keep the same 20-pound class drag that it has. So second big change in this year's Vanford, they changed the saltwater corrosive, the corrosive, paint, the body material and all that. So they made the corrosive side a lot better in the Vanford. Last major change, in my opinion, is, I spoke briefly about the vibration, the wobble, and all the sound being taken care of. I think what the biggest change is the micro module to how they're making their gearing connections. I'll debate any day, with any person. I still to this day think that Shimano makes the best gear in the industry. I think that they always have. Their reels are just so butter smooth. And the reason for it is how they really cup that gear design. There's just no wobble. There's no play. The variants that they, really cut their stuff to, it's unparalleled in my opinion. And that micro module 2 gearing system, it really sets up the Hagani system that they manufacture into the Stratix. It's just better. And those are some of the major changes between the CI4 Plus and the new Vanford.
Okay. So CI4 Plus, you're leaving. Adios. Vanford's coming in. Talk about the just Stratix now. So we got the Stratix FL or -FL, whatever it is. That's going to be the new Stratix. Is that right? The one that has the FL at the end?
Yeah, so the FL is the new Stratix that came out last year's ICAST, but really made a huge, not the one that we just had in July, but 19's ICAST. Yep. Just really hit the industry hard. They kept a lot of the same, what Stratix was known for, that lightweight design, powerful reel. But they said, okay, what's going to differentiate the FK, the FL, all the different models of Stratix? And they said, what is our big problem again? It's the bearing. So that's the first thing that they addressed is the bearing on the line roller side. So, with all things considered, yeah, there are some couple of tweaks up and down with the Stratix line. They got away from felt washers, got into the carbon fiber drag washers. So if you look at any of your old model Stratix, when you take the spool off, you'll see a whole bunch of fibers kind of underneath the spool of where that kind of dissipated over time, that old felt pattern did. So they got into the carbon fiber stuff, which is where our industry is. But the two most important is the carbon fiber stuff and the enhancements of the bearings itself.
Even if you don't know anything about bearings, if someone ever asks you, sir, ma'am, do you want felt versus carbon fiber? Take the carbon fiber.
So much stronger. It dissipates heat better. I mean, it's just a better product.
So what's the price difference in this now FL Stratix versus this Vanford?
Yeah, they're going to be in that $20 to $35 difference in price now. So
Stratix
they
being
are
cheaper or less expensive.
Yes.
I don't want to say cheaper.
Yes, that's right. Less expensive than the new Vanford.
So it almost kind of sounds like me. They're back to where they are. They almost kind of have two versions of the Stratix, but I know they're different names, like what really changed?
Now the gearing inside internally with the micro module 2 system in the Vanford is a superior product than the Stratix. It's just like getting your F-150 with the basic EcoBoost, and then now I want that 3.5 liter EcoBoost.
Okay, good analogy.
There is a difference in engine, and there is now a difference in gearing.
Cool, good analogy. What would you buy personally?
To me, I'm kind of a smorgasbord.
The answer, Mark, is it's both, right?
I like the high end stuff, but I also like the stuff that's tried and true. It's hard to beat something that you have confidence in. And I take, today's angler, we're so brand loyal. We're just very set in our ways of what we like and what we don't like in product. So, the standard Stratix is hard to beat, but the Vanford, it can't be discounted. I mean, it's one of those reels that now will stand on its own platform.
Yep. I'm pumped to get them in the store. I know we have a bunch of them on order here. We'll be in time, definitely in time for Christmas. And I'm pumped. I've seen them, held them. They're pretty smooth. Gotta love Shimano, even though I know we talk about Daiwa a lot. I still personally buy the Fuego over everything. I feel like it's the best value from all the on the water testing and even dunking these reels in the water, but it's tough to ignore Shimano. They are, I still have a couple 3000 CI4s and a 4000 that have been used and abused, and they're still smooth. I have not had the major issues with the bearings, but I know a lot of people have, so it's good.
Yeah. And Daiwa, now that we kind of segmented into talking about Daiwa a little bit, I still believe that Daiwa makes the best bearing concealment system in our industry. I mean, it's hard to dispute the mag seal and the bonuses behind the mag sealed products. Even their non-mag sealed products are still one of those scenarios that are just make great products. And, I think if you were to hang your hat on what is Daiwa known for, I think that they are known for that mag sealed component system.
Yeah, we did that video showing that you got. I guess it was from the factory. And by the way, if you guys are looking and watching, Jackson, my little, just turned 4 this week. He loves fishing reels. He heard us talking about reels. He's home today from school, and he wanted to come join us. So Jackson, we're talking about reels, dude. Catch big bass. He likes to catch bass.
Yeah. So this is what you're talking about. Yeah. So this is that system that you can see, where the mag sealed portions, it's all that oil has that nano product in there that is magnetized, that will keep the oil to the bearing itself. I mean, it's such a unique concept. So you can catch some of the videos that we've done on the mag seal component, but when you're talking about saltwater and water intrusion, period, bearings are really the most affected and the quickest to be affected of anything really in any of their reels. The way that they make gearing today, I don't know of a manufacturer that really makes a bad gear. And that's where I think Penn really stepped up their game, because they had some product in the past that was kind of struggling, in the gearing side. But now that they're starting to CNC cut a lot of their product and making it out of better material, Penn has now stepped up their game in the gearing side. So I would say that the big four, the Shimanos, the Daiwas, the Quantums, and the Penn products of the world, they're making a gear that's very good now. So really it's the bearing side, and that's where Daiwa really, really shines. And I think Daiwa is also ahead of the curve when it comes to body design. So that's another big benefit to that, so it's not, the reels of old, and the Daiwa BG is still kind of this way. And I'm going to hold up a Quantum so you understand, but that hard body, what I call a hard body frame, the traditional aluminum, big, bulky frame, it's kind of getting pushed out, and rightfully so. You're cutting out weight. And what Daiwa is going to in a lot of their high-end reels, especially, and I know that you have some too, Joe, is they're going to the monocoque frames. So it's less waste. So this entire gear assembly is mostly gear now. So in the Certates and the Exist that you have, and a lot of their better product, that monocoque frame is the future of Daiwa. So those two features are where they're really starting to get ahead of the brands.
Sorry, there, had you on mute because Jackson is asking a lot of great questions, but I didn't want to interrupt you. So for those that are listening and not watching, you had that Daiwa piece there from the manufacturer showing the oil. Kind of describe what's happening there with this mag seal for those that haven't seen it, and why you mentioned like why this is obviously important. But I think until when you see it, it kind of ties it all together. But why is that so important, and why is that kind of one of their claims to fame?
To me, to make it, pretty easy, the way that they're making their magnetic oil, it's just amazing, the technology that they have built into it. So this magnetic oil that's in the little vial that you can see here, it just reacts to a magnetic charge. And what that does is it creates this little force field around the bearing. So say this little force field is what's protecting the bearing. As that water comes in, it hits this force field so it can't penetrate to that bearing. And as you know, I'm sure that many of us and many of y'all have, torn a reel apart to clean it, to service it. And you see how micro these little bearings are. So there's not a lot of protection unless it has a system like that to create that force field. And the little bit of salt to get that little bit of corrosion starting to build, it's detrimental to something so finely tuned like a small bearing is. So just look at it like an umbrella. I'm just not allowing that umbrella to get that rain to my face.
And especially, so a lot of guides, they're out there every day. They're getting action. they're getting movement on their reels every single day. But for the average weekend warrior that might only fish once a month, or maybe it's every other week, if you do have that even minute speck of saltwater that's getting in there, and then you don't use it, and it's not you having any action for a month, 2 months, like that's when all of a sudden you feel it, and like what happened? The whole thing feels like it's frozen. It happens so quick, and I've had some that have gone to the graveyard that weren't worth even trying to get fixed because of that. Just a little bit of salt water gets in, and then you let it go for too long, and man, it's toast. And I think that's why my Daiwas have held up really, really, really well. Now, in terms of Daiwa, since we're kind of going down by brand, did they make any changes to the names? I know they're keeping obviously the Fuego. Did they make any changes there, or the BG?
So nothing on the Fuego. The BG kind of got a split in the road a little bit. So Daiwa is keeping their standard BG that the market knows extremely well. One of our most popular selling reels alongside with the Fuego. BG is just that hard body. It's that aluminum. It's that strength. I kind of, whenever I tell people, why Fuego, why BG, to me, the Fuego is I'm going to have a great reel for an artificial style scenario. And I'm going to use my BG for my cut bait, my live bait scenario, something that takes a lot of pressure. So that's kind of like my 1-2 tandem setup. So what they've done with the BG is now they've split that line up. So the BGs, what we have always known that product to be is black gold. That's the kind of the name of BG. It's a black gold concept. There you go.
Right here. This is the big boy, the 45. I know there's a bigger version, but the 4500 to me, that is like all I need for big live bait fishing.
Yeah, and most people don't realize how powerful that 4500 is. I mean, you can tarpon fish, shark fish. You can do so many things with that reel.
Well, this is the one that Luke, we were down in the Keys, and old Hollywood loves his BGs, and we've got that 120-pound tarpon in like 13 minutes on this. A lot of people think, oh, you got to have at least a 6,000 when you start doing 100+ pound tarpon. And then that hammerhead, dude, that was like an 8.5-foot hammerhead, and landed with this 4,500 and obviously a heavy rod. But man, like it was shocking how well this thing did. I was like, well, why would you need anything bigger than a 4,500 BG? This is like having a 6,000 anything else. Maybe. Yeah. Go for it.
And that's one of my downsides to the Daiwa product. Their nomenclature hasn't really matched our industry well. So your 4,500 is kind of the same size of what other companies' 6,000s are. And that's one of the big changes that Daiwa has made for 2020 and moving forward is now their sizing is now going to match what the industry sizing is. And Joe, you hung up, you showed the standard BG. So I said that there was a fork in the road. This is the new Daiwa BG MQ. And what Daiwa has decided to do is let the original BG stand on its own. But now we need a big game reel, something that's lightweight that we can fish on the near shore and offshore platform that really matches today's performance with offshore rods. And that's what the BG MQ is. So now you have the BG Black Gold and the BG MQ, which is the monocoque frame big game reel is the difference now. In this
all right. If there's someone from Daiwa listening, call us next time. You see, now you got BG for black gold and BG for big game. We could have come up with something creative for you.
That's right.
But I love it. That's so that didn't look. That was a 5,000. What was that?
This is a 5,000. It is so tiny.
It looks a lot smaller than the 45 I'm holding.
Yeah, that's right. And that's one of those changes that I told you that Daiwa was making is now they're starting to get to the standard nomenclature of our industry. And what I did is I got a Quantum Cabo 5000 and a BG MQ 5000. So now you start to see a lot of similarity and parallel sizing with the industry. Yep. So again, Daiwa's listening to their customers. So when you're buying a BG, your standard black gold from our website, what I would consider a traditional 4,000 size reel across the industry is really their 3,500. Okay. So they just make their reels a little bigger. So just keep that in mind. If you want a 4,000 standard BG, get the 3,500. Okay.
Although it is cool to say that you land a 125 pound tarpon on a 4,500 series reel.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Minutes. Interesting. All right. So what else with Daiwa? I thought they had one other change. No, anything, some new spinning reel, right?
So they have a lot of new releases. The Procyon ALs have come out. So it's an aluminum version of a product that has done, extremely well for them. That's kind of that price point between the Fuego BG market and the ballistic market. So it's in that mid 150 to 179 category. Don't quote me on price, but I'm wanting to say it's about that 170-ish price point. To me, I don't see a lot of advantage there with the Procyon because of what you get at the next level being the ballistic. Our premise is I want to put the best products made by Daiwa in our Salt Strong Insiders' hands. Okay. What can I hang my hat on? What do I have the confidence in? And that's that mag sealed product. Although BG is not a mag sealed product, the way that they make the BG, the way that they make the BG MQ, it just is sealed to the point to where you still don't have water intrusion, but you don't have the barrier that protects it against that really hard submersion of product. So, but Daiwa, we kept things, stupid simple. It's the Fuego, the BG at the lower end spectrum because it's, in my opinion, probably the best at the price point level that there is. And then at some of the higher end levels, now you have your ballistic, your Certates that exist. They all offer something unique, and that's the higher that you go, the more bearings, the lighter it becomes. It's you're paying for the performance of better product.
How important are, and we can talk about all kinds of things with reels, but I know bearings comes up quite a bit, and I even see it. I'm holding this one. I think it was somewhere here, has 7 bearings. Yeah. Talk about that in terms of the amount of bearings. Are there any companies that try to use that as marketing when it's maybe not as important, or is it always important, or is it more important on something else on how it's encased and stuff?
It's a multifaceted answer. I mean, if you look at some of the old reels, Joe, that even precede you and I, some of the old Garcias back in the day, some of the old reels, bearing was never even talked about.
Right. Some of them are still working today, 50 years later.
Absolutely. Some of those direct drive to even 2, 3, 4 ball bearing reels outlast today's 10, 12, 15 bearing reels. Again, the industry is building stuff so tight in tolerance. Anytime they add quantity of bearing, for instance, you're adding more capability of corrosion. So the higher the bearing count, you kind of open that Pandora's box. But I think what's most important about bearings for consumers to understand is where they put bearings. Okay. Everyone knows that, every manufacturer kind of has a line roller bearing to let this little idler wheel let the line come off. But some manufacturers have bearings at the pinion and gear level. Some have it at the oscillation shaft level. To me, what you want bearings to do is you want the bearings to support the most, functional part of a reel. And in my opinion, that's the shaft, because that's where most things start to break down at the engineering level, is when the shaft doesn't have the right, secured structure on both sides. If it only has bearings on one side, now you have all that perimeter weight being able to pull down the shaft. That's where you get into some of that bent shaft, and now the reel gets tight and people think, oh, my bearing's gone bad, I got a gear problem. Well, no, it's actually your shaft is bent because it wasn't supported properly. So I think what's most important about bearings is how it supports the internal components, not necessarily how many bearings are in the reel.
That's good. That's how you end up getting shafted, right? Shafted on that reel. Cool. All right, let's move on to Penn, because I know we want to hit up Penn and Quantum, which seem to be the top selling ones, at least in our store and probably nationwide in general for inshore saltwater fishing. So what did Penn do? I know they made some changes and I saw some new colors by Penn. What all did old Penn do?
Yeah, they've done a lot of great changes. Penn's kind of really known for their spin fisher. It's kind of like their, model of models. They're going to start with that and then change everything to go off of that model. So that model kind of stayed the same. They have long cast versions for my surf guys that need the capacity. We actually have those in the shop now. But what Penn, I think, really started to do is they followed the Shimano concept. I have to have a model every $10 increment to make sure that I never lose a sale. So now they have something every $10. But they really started to incorporate color, and they started to incorporate a lot of better changes into internal components. So where Penn used to be with their gear, a lot of the stuff back then was a casted product. So they poured it into a mold, they casted a gear, and it just was not really holding up to, the inshore capacities that we need for strength. So now Penn has really started to CNC cut a lot of their products now with better starting components. So you still see good quality components all the way up to brass componentry in some of their reels made of really hard product, but now CNC cut. And the benefit to that is now you start having tighter tolerances. There's no slop in the gearing to pinion setup anymore than what Penn used to have. So another major change with them. To me, I thought Penn was 10 years behind the aesthetics of what our industry is asking for in product. They were kind of old school, traditional look, feel. Now they're starting to make the body smaller. They're starting to make the reels lighter. So a lot of big changes with Penn this year.
What was it on the Battle that they made the color change to? What was the one they did that was just for like some distribution line? Was that it?
Yeah. So the Battle was, they have a small box retail only platform, which is an all silver, kind of a grayish.
That's right. That's what
bare aluminum color. But the traditional Battle that's always been out on the market is the black. And that actually, if my email is correct, that is actually landing at our shop this week. So the brand new Battle 3 will be at our shop pretty soon.
Cool. And that's fishstrong.com, everybody. Fishstrong.com. Insiders get 20% off. Woohoo! One more. I saw a couple like $800,000 orders coming in here recently. One more reason to join the Insider Club. 20% off that order. It's a lot of dough.
Yeah, I was looking at one recently, a $634 order. It was 2 bull bay rods, 2 reels. When you start looking at that concept, $500, I'm saving 20%. Boom, there's your $100 membership. So the savings it's incredible.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
And if you guys are wondering, like, hey, how do they do that, and why doesn't everyone do it? Well, we're a membership company. I mean, that's the whole point of our club is, one, to teach you where to go fish. We do that every week. We have all kinds of intel based on like real science and trends to show you where to go fish. And then we teach you what you need to use, like basically what's the best value to go catch those fish. And of course, how to retrieve it and all the how-to stuff that comes with it. And this is stuff that you can't find out there on YouTube. So we have 20% off, really the lowest price you see out there anyways. It's not like some inflated price. Some people think, oh, they must have inflated it. No, I mean, it's 20% off the same price you would find anywhere else in the country. And then it's boom, it's yours. Ship it to you, usually same day now. I mean, Carol and Corey and that crew, man, they're
incredible.
I mean, I saw we have hundreds of orders coming in a day and they're just getting them out same day. It's amazing.
Yeah, incredible. And to keep, talking about the Penn side, Penn can get you in the weeds quickly. I mean, there's 7,000 models in Penn. Yep. We wanted to keep it basic. Kind of our concept is give me the best reel for this particular category of product. So for us, that under $100 platform was the Fierce 3. So we have those coming in. So the Fierce 3 is that under 100. That $100 concept, the 130 concept, that's the brand new Battle 3. We have the Spin Fishers that kind of are in that mid to high $100 market. And then the high end market is covered with the Penn Slammer 3. So those are the four the products that we're moving forward with. I know a lot of guys like to fish the Conflict 2s, the new Clashes that have just come out. To me with Penn is I want to see it work first. Okay. And let the industry beat it up, bang it up, fish it hard. And then if it's still in the angler's mouth, Mark, we need to get this product, then we'll look into it. But Penn has kind of always been that process over time to where they like to put something out there nice and shiny and fancy. And sometimes they've had to work through a couple of bugs. And it's not just Penn, but I just want to make sure that Penn and what they have released in some of the newer offerings is on point to the predecessor.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's how we run our whole shop too. Not picking on Penn or anyone. We want to test this stuff out. We want to hear feedback from not just our insiders and our audience, but just nationwide. It's still a small industry in the big scheme of things. And you hear real quickly when some certain product is having an issue, whether it be rod, reel, et cetera. And like you said, it's part of life. It's part of any kind of manufacturing. But that is a reason that we don't just put the new shiny object up on our store right away. We go test the stuff out. We want to make sure you're getting the best value. We want to make sure anything that our members, and even if you're not a member and you're buying from our shop, which you're obviously allowed to, you just pay the normal price. We want to make sure you're getting the absolute best value, the best product for that scenario. So, all right, that's Penn. Anything else before we move on to Quantum?
No.
Okay. So what about Quantum? Quantum's another one. Quantum guys, marketing people. You want some help? Call us. We love to help you. They're great reels. Like I always kind of, I guess here's a good analogy. They're kind of like the Suzuki's in the motors, right? Suzuki's, like the commercial guys love Suzuki's. They're probably some of the longer lasting ones. They're great engines, but they don't have the marketing and like the pizzazz and just, and you know what I'm talking about, just that sex appeal that a Yamaha and like Mercury has. Rarely do you see, a boat with trips with, 3 Suzukis, right? Or quads, right? It's always Mercury or Yamaha, or, it's there's something there that they've missed. Same with Evinrude, right? Evinrude just did a poor job. Now they're not even around. They did a poor job on the marketing, just being honest. And I hate it for them because those are both, they're great engines. Our dad has an Evinrude still, and it's great. Suzuki's are great. I feel like Quantum's in the same boat, and not to bash Quantum, but they're great. Like we have Quantums and like, holy smokes, these are really good reels. They're lasting forever. Why isn't anyone talking about them?
You hit it right on the head, Joe. They're just not that sexy pick. They do, in my opinion, a very poor job when it comes to marketing their product, and their product is legit. I have fished the Quantum Smoke Inshores and the Cabos for years, and they just don't have the market presence that they truly deserve. And you mentioned, the Suzuki's in the engines and why the commercial guys love them. One of the reasons why they love them is because they come with the best warranty. Well, that's Quantum. When you buy a brand new Quantum Smoke Inshore or anything like that, they're putting a warranty on these things up to 5 years.
Yeah.
You would never see a 5-year warranty in a Shimano and Daiwa product ever.
What do they have in general, Shimano and Daiwa?
1 year.
One. Okay. Unless you're doing like the Exist or some of these really, $600 ones, it's a little bit different, but yeah.
Yeah, a little bit different. But I mean, as far as an overall blanket of coverage, most companies are a year, so is that really a testament to how well Quantum feels that their reel is? To me, if I'm going to stamp, I'm going to give you 5 years, that says a lot. That holds a lot of weight.
Yep.
Another really unique thing that I fell in love with on the Quantum side is, if you go to their website, they have a segment in there that shows you how they actually test the strength of their product. They have machines that do nothing but flip the bail over on the reel thousands of times a day to simulate Joe out there fishing with his brother, casting 1,000 times a day. So they have a machine that does nothing but flip the bail over and over and over again. They have a machine that does nothing but peel the line off of a reel. They torture these reels. And I'm telling you, I would love it if the people listening would watch these videos. I mean, you'll be blown away with the quality that they're actually putting in the product today.
Yep. Or if Quantum run that, because most people don't even know what you just said. If Quantum just ran ads to those videos, right? I mean, that's like aha moment, because I feel like they don't get the love they deserve. This smoke, and Luke's had a Cabo. That was Luke's got like I don't know if they still make them anymore. I want to say it was an 8,000 Cabo.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Cabo's huge.
Yeah, that's been his like big tarpon reel forever. I mean, I'm talking before we even had Salt Strong, so probably 6 years old, and that thing still, after a lot of use and abuse, is still killing it. But the smoke, man, very, very impressed. I mean, everything it's actually super light. It's smooth. I'm very, very impressed. It was kind of one of those like, man, I can't believe no one is talking about this. I still personally, I'm still Daiwa Fuego is kind of my go-to, especially after the discount with the incident. I mean, I'm paying $80, dude. Wife's happy. I'm happy. I got good stuff. How much is like the smoke now? It's more.
They're family priced at $189.99.
Okay, got it. And so after the discount, it's still better discount.
You're in the 150. Yeah, you're in the 150 market. But look collectively though. What does every player in the industry do? They say, okay, what's the number one reel in our business? Okay, the Stratix. Okay. If I'm going to hit them in the nose, I need to compete against their number one. And that's what Quantum did with the smoke. They said, what do we like about the Stratix? What don't we like about the Stratix? And that's why the Quantum side, they made a better bearing. So they have better bearings, in my opinion, than Shimano. And they have a much stronger gear and drag system than Shimano. So that's kind of what Quantum said. I'm going to change these things. I've listened to the consumer. I know what they don't like, and I'm going to make it to something that they do. It's just they're not as good with the deliverable with marketing, But if you were to put the two side by side, listen, I'll put a smoke against a Stratix every day of the week, and not even think twice. And it's less money.
Stratix FL, Stratix CI4, or Vanford.
Yes.
Now everyone who's been trying to like you said, kind of emulate the Stratix is now they're all like having to go back to the whiteboards and say, all right, we can't call it the CI4 anymore. We got to call it the Vanford or the FL. That's so funny. Cool. That's helpful. But Quantum has, how many different lines do they have? They don't have it like Penn where it's every, $10 to $15, but they do have some.
Yeah. What Quantum is really, really known for, in my opinion, is two very distinctive reels. The inshore smoke, which is my inshore category of product covered, and then the near shore and offshore stuff being the Cabo. So that's kind of my 1-2 scenario inside the Quantum line. Now, they do make other products, but to me, I would do my insiders a disservice by not telling them what's in it for them as an angler. And I think that those two reels best serve our needs for our customers.
Yeah, and we'll have to do. This has been fun. We'll have to do a separate, and we are going to talk about returns and repairs too, because I want to touch on that. But we'll have to do a whole separate podcast on kind of some miscellaneous brands. Florida Fishing Products, Tsunami, like some of these other ones that we have, and they're accurate. And also like do one on really high end and even low end. I mean, because you got the Van Stalls, and you got the review I just did recently with the Exist. There's a lot of different versions of this podcast we can do. We wanted to do one just kind of in general because I think this is what 80% of the weekend warriors, especially, and even a lot of full-time guys are buying a lot of these. People who just want great value, who want to get a lot of use out of it and have some good longevity. So speaking of all that, Mark, you were in I won't, you can name the place if you want to, but a tackle store where you're in there every day. We're talking millions of dollars coming in that place every year. So you're getting to see a lot of reels being sold. And that also means you guys are not really responsible per se, but you're hearing about the returns and having to deal with the manufacturer. Any thoughts on that in terms of different brands or lines that you saw maybe either getting returned more often, or maybe the customer service was just amazing, like, hey, it turned around in a week? What are your thoughts on all that? Because that's kind of the next step too, right? Even like with Daiwa, it's cool that I have lifetime guarantee on that thing, on that Exist that I paid $800 for, or, a little bit less because of the discount. But it's also like, all right, is it going to take me a month to get my reel back? So overall trends on returns and repair, and who's best, who's the worst, just from your experience, not to throw anyone underneath the bus.
I'm going to address this in two kind of segments. The first segment is what you're starting to see a lot of manufacturers do is they want products to either return to their facility or a facility that they have signed off on and given them the credential of being a factory service center. Because what they're seeing is when they take it to a mom and pop shop, or, hey, my buddy knows how to do it kind of thing, what they're seeing is those individuals and those companies are putting the reel back together incorrectly, number one, or they're not putting the internal structure the way that the manufacturer requires it, with the proper grease and the proper oil. Okay. So just because there's a million different greases and oils that are out there, it doesn't mean that the manufacturer wants that in their reel. Okay. And, talking about Daiwa, for instance, what makes the Daiwa so incredibly awesome is the magnetic oil. Well, when you put a different kind of oil in there that's not magnetic, well, now you just killed the whole reason why that reel is so incredible to begin with.
Yep.
Okay. So it really is, the manufacturers are starting to tighten that a little bit. So if you look on Daiwa's site, Shimano's site, any of the major manufacturers, you'll see, like in our state, in the state of Florida, there might be 3 to 5 different factory, I'm going to let them do this, this repair. Okay. So keep that in mind, that's part of the problem. The other problem that I saw the majority of the issues with were bearings. I very, very seldomly ever saw a gear problem. It might be 1 in 1,000 reels. Okay. I saw more bent shafts and drag problems. Both of those were just far above what the gear problems ever were. Okay. And I'll tell you why the drag is a problem. The typical angler, they crank that drag down so tight and they fish it out of the tolerance of what the manufacturer called it to be. So when someone says, Mark, my Daiwa Fuego is flexing. Okay, well, it's flexing because you cranked it up to 30 pounds of drag. Okay, if the individuals, if the anglers would fish the product for what it's designed to be, and fish it with 5 pounds to 15 pounds of drag, you're not going to hurt components like a frame of the reel, a drag washer. You're not going to hurt these things. And I think that's where one of the mistakes is. So whenever we're replacing drag washers, and that's with every brand, okay, it's because they had that immediate, I need to get that fish in from point A to point B, and I want to hold it up for a picture. Well, you're killing your reel.
Yeah. And you should never, we talk about that in the Fuego, right? People have said, I don't like the Fuego because it doesn't have enough drag, or the drag doesn't support, and you're seeing flex. And if you're using 10-pound braid, which is what you should be using on a normal inshore, which is what this topic is about, 10-pound braid, you never in a million years would need 18 to 25 pounds of drag, ever. It's impossible if you're really fishing it right. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. So again, it's an angling aptitude thing. I think the more education that they receive, most individuals don't realize how much pressure 10 pounds of drag truly is. I mean, it's an incredible amount of weight.
Yep.
Okay. So that aside, one of the biggest things, with the shaft, imagine this spool completely oscillated at its furthest point. If the drag is too tight, that shaft has the capability, because of that perimeter weight being so far away from the body itself. That's where the bent shaft comes into play. Okay. Because you have so much drag put into this reel, that's one of the major concerns about the shafts, going bad. But I would say, as a percentile, 70% of the reels that have a problem are bearing related. And that's a huge number. And as far as brands go, and I'm not going to smash brands, but Stratix, the Shimanos of the world, seem to come into the shop more often. But is it because they're also more sold? Okay. If I'm going to sell 10,000 Stratix versus 1,000 Fuegos, well, I expect to see more Stratix. Okay. So although I saw more Stratix coming in for repair, that also could be a number thing. Okay. So it was normally bearing related.
That's helpful. And so I'm guessing probably because, one, they have a great warranty and they're well made and they don't sell as well, Quantum probably had the fewest amount, just in terms of numbers. But percentage-wise, and for those of you listening, Mark is saying yes. He's nodding his head. But percentage-wise, you didn't really calculate that?
To us, we didn't really have the statistics to say we're seeing a major problem with this reel. We did it really based on brand. It just seemed like number one was a Shimano product, number two a Daiwa product, but you also are, I don't want to skew that and saying because those are the two most popular selling brands. Yep. So there's more on the water, but we never really saw a lot of Quantums come back. We never really saw some of their high-end stuff. I mean, I can't tell you how many. I mean, it was just so few.
What about Penn?
We saw quite a bit of Penn.
Okay.
We saw quite a bit of Penn. And Penn, statistically speaking, at my old place, they were number 3 or 4 on the totem pole when it came to sales. So it wasn't a numbers thing with them because they were kind of further down the totem pole with what consumers wanted. So, but again, Penn has changed a lot, and they needed to. They addressed it because they saw the problem as well.
Yep. Cool, man. Well, anything else before we close it up? And I'd love to hear from anyone who made it this far. What do you guys want us to do next on this? Do you want us to go high end, super low end, like, best reels for kids and newbies, or some hybrid? We got just kind of miscellaneous reels out there for certain scenarios. So let me know. My email, joe@saltstrong.com, joe@saltstrong.com. Make it this far, you can email me and I will read it. I might not get back to you right away, but I definitely will get it, and we'll run it by the team. So anything else, Mr. Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch?
I would like to do something in the future, with Van Staal, with Tsunami, with Accurate, some of those higher end reels, and explain the differences between submersible product and sealed products.
Ooh, I like that.
So that's a big thing, a big misconception. Well, it's sealed. Why am I having problems? Sealed and submersible are two very, very different things. And that's something that I think we can address. And now that we're starting to get more and more product into the store, we mentioned Accurate earlier, another one of those brands that will be in our storefront pretty soon. Some of the differences between the small conventional market that people use for inshore as well.
I love it. Cool. I wrote that one down. We're definitely going to do that one. So you guys let us know. And please, if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe. Definitely give us a thumbs up, a like. It helps out big time. And then subscribe to us on whatever podcast platform you are listening on, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, etc. That helps us out. Huge to get found and to rank in the algorithms. So, guys, we appreciate you. We love you. If you're not an insider member, join today. Check us out. Find out what I think we're at 17,000. I saw members getting right there at 17,000 members, really from Texas to really New Jersey now. that want to go out there and maximize their time and save money on all of their tackle, and not just all their tackle, the best tackle, right? We'll never be a Bass Pro. We want to beat Bass Pro, but we're going to beat them a different way. You can't beat Bass Pro on SKUs, meaning SKUs is the amount of different variations they have on every product. They might have 1 million for all I know in the saltwater, or really in the fishing industry. We're going to have a whole lot less, kind of like what some other smart companies do. And we're just going to have the best out there, just all on value, all on what really works. No sponsors, none of the fluff out there. We truly just want to go out there, put this stuff. We buy it with our own money. We go out there with our own hard-earned money. This was bought with my own real money here on this 4500 BG that I'm holding. And a lot of times, one of the first things we do, which is painful to watch, is we dip some of this stuff in salt water. Luke just got a couple of those new pliers. The first thing it is, throw them in the water. Let's see how they do. That's called putting it to the test. We need to get one of those machines like Quantum has, where it's constantly flipping the bail back and forth.
I'm telling you, they're incredible.
Otherwise, if we have, I'm envisioning like having Corey do it, and he's going to like have carpal tunnel and won't be able to do anything anymore. Cool, buddy. Well, this is fun. This is really helpful. This helped me out. I know we're getting a lot of questions now that we're hitting the holidays and a lot of these new models are available on fishstrong.com. A lot of people are asking, all right, what's this Vanford? What's going on here? So that was super helpful. If you guys have any questions, let us know. We'd love to hear from you, either my email or fish, F-I-S-H, @saltstrong.com. We'll go to all of us. That's fish@saltstrong.com. Otherwise, we will talk to you on the next episode. Peace. We out. Thanks, Mark.
All right, bud.
Peace.
'Cause fishing, it's in